Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Callie, and with it being the first day of March, I'm gonna go through my March TBR, which is actually less ambitious than February's. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So, first things first, the series that I'm going to be finishing at the beginning of the month is going to be the Fable series by Adrienne Young, which is Fable and Namesake. I read Fable right when it came out, and I absolutely love how these covers work together. I really liked it. It's piratey, adventure, you know, a really good love story, and this is actually the only Adrienne Young book that I have liked thus far. So I have really high hopes for Namesake. Up next, I have Poisoned by Jennifer Donnelly. Jennifer Donnelly is one of my favorite authors, and she is one of the authors I've actually been following since high school. She's one of the few authors who is still coming out with books that I heavily followed when I was a teenager. I found her through her Deep Blue quartet, which was all about mermaids and saving mermaid civilizations. It was great. Recently, she's been doing these twisted tale kind of things, but from the villain's point of view. So the first one was Stepsister, where we're following after the events of Cinderella, but we're following one of the stepsisters. And what I like about what she's been doing with these is she's taking the actual Grimm's fairy tale. So in Stepsister, it was one of the sisters that cut off part of her foot, and she incorporated that within the story. In this one, we're actually following the Snow White character, who's actually named Sophie, as she isn't as dumb and naive as the original Snow White, where the original Snow White was like, my stepsister doesn't hate me and want me dead. That no way. She actually recognizes that her stepmother wants her dead, and she runs away. And then this one, it's saying that she actually works under the huntsman. So I think it's going to be a really interesting twist. I love twisted fairy tales. The Twisted Tales by Disney are one of my favorite series to just pick up, and I love Jennifer Donnelly's writing, so I have a lot of high hopes for this book. Up next, I have The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling. This is a queer vampire story. This is one of my, I think this was a Fairy Loot for December. It was the second book in paperback. And I really like Isabel Sterling. She is the author of These Witches Don't Burn series, which I really loved. They're a unique take. They're queer. They're really fun and quirky. So I'm excited to see. I've loved what she did with witches. I'm super pumped to see what she'll do with vampires. Next, I have a book that has been sitting on my TBR for almost a year, and it's been staring at me, just needing to be read, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I adore Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read both of her, I've read two of her books, her two most popular novels, Daisy Jones and the Six, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I adored both of those books. Evelyn Hugo is actually one of our Book of the Month picks when we had our book club going. And this is her newest book that dropped last summer. And this follows this extremely wealthy family in Malibu. And I believe this one takes place over the course of a day, which is really intriguing comparatively to the two books that I have read, which have taken over the span of decades. So interested to see how we go from this long timeline to this very, very short timeline with these siblings. I believe this is also happening in the 80s. It is. It's happening in 1983. So really pumped. I've heard really good things about this. And I love diving into Taylor Jenkins Reid's mind and how she storytells. Up next, I have Blood Countess by Lana Popovic. This is a story following Lady Dracula based off of the historical figure Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who is notorious for being one of the most prolific female serial killers in all of history, killing several of her servants. And I believe we're actually following one of those servants in this story. I'm not sure if this is a fantastical element or if this is historical fiction. And with books like this that do heavily rely on the historical fiction aspect, I like to go into them blind and not know if there is a fantastical element. But I have been reading a lot of historical fiction regarding Vlad Dracul, or the original inspiration for Dracula, so I'm intrigued to see the female rendition of that based off of the actual historical figure. Up next, I have Girls Like Us by Randi Pink. This is a contemporary novel following four teenage girls who know nothing about each other, don't know each other, but they all have the same problem: they're all pregnant. And this story is supposed to weave together, start making connections, and just weaves these 4 women's story together. And I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. I've heard really good things. I've heard this is a very powerful read, and I just think it's going to be interesting. Up next, I have The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant. Honestly, the only thing about this that I know that this is a fantastical Les Mis retelling. It's all I needed to know. That's all you needed to tell me to get me to purchase this book. Actually, this book was a gift, but the person who did give me this book knew exactly that I would love this. So really excited. I haven't heard anything. I think this came out last summer or the summer before. I'm not entirely positive, but it's been out for a hot minute and I really want to get to it because Les Mis is my favorite show of all time. And I've read a few Les Mis retellings and I've really enjoyed them. Up next, I have Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. I've been trying to slowly get through Jay Kristoff's backlog and I finally got the entire trilogy of Lifelike, which is a sci-fi story following a girl, Eve, Eve seems to draw trouble. Everyone seems to want a piece of her. There's a gang that thinks she can control machines. She's on the run from this gang with her best friend, and then she meets a lifelike, which seems like an android AI kind of a thing. I know Jay Kristoff can write fantastic sci-fi, see Illuminae and the Aurora Rising series, which don't get me wrong, those are with Amy Kaufman, and she does add something fantastic to these stories. But I know that Jay Kristoff is a fantastic storyteller, and I am really excited to dive into this sci-fi. Next, I have This Cruel Design by Emily Suvada. This is the sequel to This Mortal Coil, which is another sci-fi story following a girl in the future after a plague has basically not wiped out humanity, but humanity is now living underground. She was living above ground trying to help solve the problem of the virus by coding. In this world, coding and healthcare are one and the same. You have this like panel on your arm and you can install apps to help with your asthma, your anxiety, and stuff like that. It was really cool. I loved book 1. So I am so intrigued after that plot twist of the end of book 1 to jump right into book 2. As someone with a biology degree, this spoke to me on so many levels. I love the science of genetics, and it was just so great to be able to jump back into my knowledge and what I know about genetics with this sci-fi element of genetics playing a part in coding, and it's just so interesting the way that this story was weaved together. Next, I have Courting Darkness by Robin LaFevers. This is a spin-off series of her original series, Grave Mercy, which followed 3 different girls during the war where France was trying to take over the country of Brittany when it was still its own country. This is a spin-off series following one of those 3 girls. In this one, we're following Isabel. I'm going into this blind because I don't want to know where we're at. I'm thinking this is a time jump after the events of the 3rd novel, so I'm really excited to jump back into this world. I mean, I literally just finished the series earlier in February, but once I picked up the first book, I knew I was gonna just want to binge the entirety of the series and companion series. So jumping right into this one is going to be really fun. These are a lot bigger than the other books, so I'm hoping way more action and maybe even a little bit more romance. And the final book that I have on my March TBR is Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. Honestly, the only thing I know about this is mermaids. And as we've been through this conversation multiple times, I'm a sucker for the mermaid trope, and I will forever grab a book about mermaids. And this is the Owl Crate edition, so it's absolutely stunning. Like, can we just for a second appreciate the gorgeousness of this book? I love it. So really excited. Literally all I know is mermaids. I have no idea what our plot is. I know it's a duology, and I just have so much high hopes for this book. It has taken a lot of me to not purchase this book in the store because I knew it was coming in my Owl Crate, because I think this was my December Owl Crate, which I literally got this like 2 weeks ago. So I got my December Owl Crate in February, which was fun, but I've been really wanting to read this book, so I'm happy to finally have my hands on this to pick it up and enjoy it. I have a few other books that I'm hoping to get to in the month of March, but as I will be on vacation at the end of the month, I'm trying not to stack so many books for my TBR, because as much as I want to bring 10 books on my vacation, not exactly feasible. So that's going to be my TBR for the month of March. Hopefully we'll be getting some nicer weather and I'll be able to get some rain and some ambiance to read all of these books. But that's going to be it for today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, with the occasional Sunday. And I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye!